At some point I realized I had staked my identity in this project, the motorcycle. Oh yeah. It's a beautiful sunset at Jordan Lake, and the water sort of looks like you can walk on it. Fuck it. I came out here thinking this notes app section that I have a bunch of ideas written down, I would pick one and make a video about it. But I don't know, none of them are totally speaking to me. But what I'm thinking about is I recently sold this motorcycle that I've been building for 2 years. And it was sort of like my college education. I didn't like the education that I was getting traditionally. I went to a school for to learn how to be a automotive technician, and I didn't like it at all. I liked automotive stuff. We weren't getting to do enough of it. That's why I disliked it. I didn't think it was hands-on enough. I could sit here for hours and tell you what I think is wrong with it, but that's not productive. What is productive is taking the matters of education into your own hands, but that's also a huge challenge. And it's weird because it's one of those weird gray areas that's like, the question becomes, how do you account for all of this? How do you account for any of this? The time spent, it's like, I guess what degree could you compare it to is kind of, what kind of value capture is there? And there isn't one. But I guess I was sort of thinking the value capture would be like finishing the motorcycle, and having that as something to show for myself, So I did it. I finished it. And then I realized that I just was not enjoying it the way I had hoped I would. I'm trying to think of what context is even appropriate here, because there's a lot. But the important parts are, at some point I realized I had staked my identity in this project, the motorcycle. And I have a Subaru too that I'm rebuilding, and that one as well. That's not a good way to do things. I so identified with these things, and I loved learning new things, and it definitely, part of my identity became that I'm a learner. I like to learn new things. A concept that I really liked to explore not too long ago was the generalist versus the specialist. And I consider myself a generalist, but there's pieces of each one in the other. And a big piece of being a generalist is specializing in learning things. That's what I think. I got really good at that, learning new things, and I have all sorts of my own motivations, and that definitely plays a role in it. But I really liked to learn things, and what I was learning about for so long was all things automotive. What I ended up learning from the motorcycle was not just how to weld, more about those old engines. Learned more than I ever wanted to know about carburetors. Tons of just technical experience. It's it's hard to put into words, and that's the thing here. It's hard to put into words how valuable hands-on experience is. It's impossible. There's just so much that you couldn't possibly describe to somebody. And when you're really doing something with your hands, you just learn all of it. You learn exactly what it feels like to over-tighten a screw, to strip a bolt, and to hammer in a wheel bearing just the right amount. You learn all that stuff. It's a mechanic's feel. It's an art as much as it is a science, completely. So that's a lot of what I learned with the motorcycle. And I also learned how I go about so many of these important processes in pursuing something as big as, fully rebuilding a motorcycle, and sort of regarding that as my education. I definitely learned about my work habits. I learned about my motivations. I learned about the way when you're doing something that meditative, you're so focused on something like that, you can't help but learn how your brain works. I guess that's as simple as it needs to be put. I was learning things about my own frustrations. I was learning things about how I hold space for things in my head. I was learning things about my own, I don't know if this is the right word, sentimentalism. I was learning about how I feel sentimental about things. I had these old wrenches that were my grandfather's grandfathers, so my great-great-grandfather's wrenches. I'm pretty sure. I think he said, my grandpa said, these were my grandfathers. And they were just unusable, and because they were just old and rusted and kind of, they were just worn out and they weren't really going to do much. And it was like one was an adjustable pipe wrench, and it's like it doesn't adjust anymore. But I was like, they're cool, but I wanted to figure out some sort of thing, some purpose that they could have more than just an heirloom. And so I cut them up and I put them as the foot pegs on the motorcycle, and that was super cool. And they're gone. The motorcycle's gone. I mean, it's not like it disappeared, but somebody owns it other than me now. And they're still with it. It's weird. I put a lot into that motorcycle, and then I sold it. But the truth is, I feel more free now. I feel less attached. I staked so much into that motorcycle. I was, I guess, subconsciously confining myself. And there's a symbolism there. I sold it because I wanted to go on longer trips. I wanted a motorcycle that would take me, 200 miles at a time, at least. And that's no challenge for today's motorcycles. Yeah, there are some motorcycles, you'll get 300 miles out of them, out of a single tank of gas. I wanted that. And I have it now. I did buy this new motorcycle. It's a BMW. It's pretty cool. But I feel like, I sort of feel like I did my time. I put in all this work and effort and energy into learning about this motorcycle and all these different mechanical systems and everything. And now I just get to enjoy the knowledge. It's like, what is it like? I was thinking of a mountain climbing metaphor. Like, you climb a mountain and you learn the whole route, but it's like this time I don't have to even do the whole route again. It's like I just get to go right to the view. And every once in a while there's like a part of, you know what it's like? Here's what it's like. It's like when I used to carve out these like mountain bike trails with my friends. And you'd spend all day, you'd do all this work, and you'd make this jump perfect, this little dirt, kicker jump. You get the lip right, and you'd build up all these sticks underneath it and then smooth it out with some dirt on top. And you'd do this whole trail, you'd rake out, a whole single track section. And then you'd ride it. It's like, it feels like that. It feels like I've carved out this whole entire mountain bike trail. And now I just get to ride it. That's what it feels like. And then anytime, there are always going to be parts of the trail that need maintenance. But you know it. You've done it. I've done it before. I know it. I know, exactly where that jump is. I know what it feels like, and I know where I can improve some things. But I just get to enjoy it and then maintain. I don't have to build anything up. And it's weird. It's weird having... I think I haven't fully realized it yet. I'm realizing it, continuously. That I have this free space in my brain now. But it's weird. It's weird to have staked your identity. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is my success with the Suzuki motorcycle that I built became my success as a human being. And that is hyperfixation. That's too much. That's too far. It's unhealthy. I didn't realize that was happening. But I realize it now. I was talking to my cousin Lionel about that sort of thing. And we had a good conversation. I was able to, I think, clear up a lot of that blurriness around that concept. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's going to require more. It's going to require more time and another video talking about stuff. I'd say. What time am I at? I was checking if it was recording, and then I didn't look at the time. 13 minutes. Fuck it. I'll go to 20. It's funny right now. The motorcycle that I just bought is I talk about how capable it is. Right now, there's a cable that I have pulled out because it was messed up, and I'm fixing it, and I'm waiting on new tires for it. But let me tell you, it's much easier to commit to those two things rather than, repainting a gas tank and de-rusting it and lining the inside and stripping a bike down to its bare frame and replacing every bearing, every moving part, every bushing, greasing all of it up, wiring everything, welding in some custom stuff. I mean, it's not much problem solving. That is the big thing. That took so much energy. Making decisions. I heard somewhere that decision making is like the number one thing that takes up the most energy in your brain. It's just making decisions. And it makes sense. I feel that. But now it's like, I'll go out and I'll work on the Subaru, and for 6 hours, and then I've hooked up 3 lines, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do anything. But it's like, I was making decisions. That's what I was doing. Each one took 2 hours because I had to figure out exactly where to route. I'm doing all this custom stuff, but that's not the case on the BMW. This line that I've replaced. I mean, there was part of it that was messed up, so I had to figure out how to, save these threads and then get something that threads into it that's the right size, and so there's still problem solving, but it's got all the, it's got factory clips. That line goes right in here and it stays there. That takes a heavy weight off. More than I realized, I think. But it is also true that, a lot of this stuff is case by case, so it's not like you would ever really do much of it again. But like, one of the lines I was figuring out how to route was one of my brake lines, and I got 4 of them, so I spent 2 hours on that. But now I feel like, okay, I got an idea of how this goes together. I can apply this to the next 3, and I won't have to spend 2 hours on it. The mechanic joke is like, the first side takes 5 hours, the second side takes 30 minutes, because you figured it out and you just zip through it. And that is not completely an exaggeration. It happens. Yeah, we'll see how it feels, the freedom. I'm gonna make more videos about it. I had this video about this video idea about, and I started to film it a little bit, and then I was frustrated with the motorcycle and couldn't take it out and couldn't fulfill the vision that I had, so I stopped. But I'm still committed to that video, even though it's a different motorcycle. I'm still going to talk about the whole build process. I had a vision for the motorcycle, and it turned out kind of close. I made hundreds and hundreds of decisions. Form over function, function over form. Weighing those two things, finding a weird balance, middle ground. Whatever. And that took a lot of energy. But that's part of it. That's part of it. I had this vision, and then that's the thing that you learn. You learn where your priorities are. You go, oh, wait a second, actually, this isn't something I want to deal with. I don't want to have this type of handlebar. I'll be like this. I want to have this type of handlebar. That's going to be more comfortable. Stuff like that. I'll finish out with some sort of closing statement. Yeah, that's my closing statement.